Good afternoon, everybody, and thanks for joining us for the JS Mindset Weekly Call. My name's Denny. Today is Sunday, November 17, 2019. On the call today are the boys, Jim Sinclair, Bill Holter, and of course, Dave. Guys, the political circus in Washington, D.C. continues, and the hearings are a lot like the old circus act where what seems like dozens of clowns keep pouring out of this tiny little Volkswagen Beetle. Of course, at some point the drama will end, and I'm totally convinced that there will be another circus act to follow the circus act that we're watching now. But hopefully the American people are waking up to the manipulation of propaganda that we're subjected to 24 hours a day. And in the other big top, the financial circus is also continuing. And where we had temporary infusion of overnight dollars from the Federal Reserve to keep the financial system liquid, those temporary infusions have now clearly moved on to the Fed's balance sheet, and that means that the permanent infusions have resumed. It is apparent to everyone who's paying attention that they simply cannot cease these infusions or all hell's going to happen. So it's good that we can meet up here on Sunday afternoon with the opportunity to listen to Jim and Bill and Dave, to hear their reactions and rather unique and individual perspectives to the economic, political, and world events. In the course of our conversation today, always remember we are not giving you investment advice. We're just trying to give you another perspective of the economic world so you can add it to your own, so you can be prepared for whatever might be certainly very trying times ahead. As always, thanks for investing in the premium side of jsmindset.com. There are plenty of new postings daily on there, including Bill's writing and things of interest to Jim, Dave, and Bill that are linked to from their readings during the week. Bill, I'm going to start with you. We had some what I'm going to call breaking news. You sent me an email about the analysis of the House of Cards at CFTC. And the amperage is increasing to the point where there simply has to be multiple layers of hypothecation and rehypothecation that really begin to multiply with the exchange for physical contracts going over to London. Why don't you fill us all in about what's happened in the last 24 hours?
Okay. As Dave has said time and again, everything's rigged all the time. We've known it all along, but we didn't know how it was done. And this is a work in progress, so if I stutter or stammer or whatever, we're still trying to pull pieces together. And you three, if something's not clear, jump in. It started off... It started off with the EFPs roughly a year ago. Actually, slightly over a year. They've been doing the EFPs to London, and that was discovered because there were way too many contracts standing at the end of the month, and they were not getting settled on. So this was a way for COMEX to say, look, we're settling, but London's doing the settling for us. And we knew that the COMEX was not settling because they routinely carry less than 1 million ounces of registered gold, which means gold available for delivery, whereas several million ounces every other month is standing for delivery. So we knew that did not add up. So, and I'm stuttering and stammering here because I'm trying to go through notes on this. Preface all of this by GATA and Pam Martins have been asking for freedom of information, and they're being told that, no, you can't have it for 2 years. So we've got a 2-year delay for them fessing up. Craig Hemke put one piece together, and it's actually kind of a piece that I had already come up with, the SGE, the Shanghai contracts. It was my opinion initially that it looked like Shanghai was the tail that was going to wag the COMEX dog. We just didn't know how. And then Dave Kranzler, Friday afternoon and yesterday, has been putting together information on a new category at the COMEX. The COTs are either the gold that's held at supposedly held at COMEX is either registered or eligible. Eligible is customer gold. Registered is gold that is supposedly able to be delivered. And as of November 4th, the COMEX changed the rules, and Jim will talk about rule changes in the past, which are often watershed events. They changed the rules and they added one more category called pledged gold. And what this pledged gold category is, if an institution places pledged contracts with the CME, that can be used as margin. And what can you do with margin? You can go out and sell more contracts. Well, we know over the last, let's call it a month, the amount of contracts outstanding have gone from under 600,000 to roughly 720,000 contracts. So just round numbers, that's 12 million ounces additional of paper gold that has hit the market in the last, call it, month. Now here's the interesting thing. HSBC is the only institution that has placed pledged contracts so far with the CME. So what does that tell us? It tells us that HSBC is more than likely the one that's being eaten up or was being eaten up with mark-to-market losses. In other words, they're in the gold area. We're not talking about silver yet now. We're talking strictly gold. HSBC apparently had, if you could call it, I guess, funding problems, because they've got so many contracts outstanding. With gold going higher, they were getting margin calls. How do they meet the margin call? They used pledged gold. Now, one of our longtime readers, Kevin, put together that it works out to what was the number? Like 90 million. The amount of pledged gold is roughly 90 million gold ounces. And it's also interesting that HSBC is the custodian for, guess who? GLD. So what we're questioning is HSBC pledging GLD gold to create additional margin for themselves and relieve funding problems. Now let's do all the whole circle and go back to, remember we were talking about the Shanghai Gold Exchange contracts. Is this a way for Shanghai to convert or demand delivery on contracts and be filled with GLD gold? That's what we're trying to put together. Now, this pledged category, as I mentioned, came up on November 4th, and they've done. HSBC has pledged roughly 300, I think it was $324 million worth, and the most any one firm could pledge for margin was $250 million. Now it's $750 million. And Jim, you can pop in if you want regarding the changes.
Just a couple of facts.
Yeah, the changes in the changes in CFTC rules, often on watershed events.
We've always been looking, and Bill has always had a trail of facts looking for, let's find the smoking gun in the gold manipulation. And gold manipulation is nothing new to this world. It happened 68 to March of 80 as well. And the biggest action in the gold market came during the Hunt saga. And I remind you that Volcker drafted me to be the liquidator of the Hunts as part of putting together the then big loan to save Merrill, Beach, and a couple of other rather famous firms back then that were on the wrong side of the market. During a period that's when silver was running into the 40s and gold was making its way into the low 800s. And I come in the office one morning, and Vinny, my ex-partner, says to me, "Jimmy, I need $100 million, and by the way, so do you." I said, "What are you talking about, Vince?" He says, "We got margin calls." And I said, "I'm not. What the hell margin call? I'm long. I'm making I'm making a mountain of money." And he said, "Bear in mind that we still have the $10 limit on gold loan in New York, while Chicago has no limit. New York is up 10, but Chicago's up like 40. So basically, it don't make a damn according to the rules with $30 in the hole." And then came the good news. Henry Jarecki at Mercado Metals was in had the same problem, yet he was chairman of the COMEX board of directors. And lo and behold, before the opening, the board met and changed the rules. And the limit in New York became no limit, like it was in Chicago. Therefore, the price in New York at that morning that the margin departments would use was the same as the price in Chicago, and the differential disappeared. So did my $100 million margin call plus Vincent plus Henry. Now, changing of the rules seems to be the smoke that comes out of the gun. And remember, Mercado Metals, now it's a Scotiabank's asset. I know they were trying to sell it unsuccessfully because of the lawsuits against Rigging Gold or against Mercado Metals. But this thing is, the name is over 325 years old. And Mercado was the ball, and maybe that ball changed as time went by. So a rule change got the three of us super longs out of trouble. And we were in trouble according to the rules. And margin guys like little machines. The rules. Put up the money or liquidate. And we didn't want to liquidate because we knew gold was trying for 900. 825 wasn't enough. That's being a little piggy, but that was the story. And then the COMEX started to really believe their own BS. The Hunts never meant ever to take delivery. The problem with the Hunts is they were bulls in a china shop, and I've told you the story before, the difference between Bunker and Herbert. One was meticulous with his paperwork, and the other just threw the crap up in the air and let it float. He didn't like doing business with minutia. In fact, minutia he was no good at. A great man, but minutia no. So when he missed by mistake last notice day, they said, "Holy, they're taking delivery," and there goes silver to a offering price of $44. Bid very widespread, 40 bills at 44, and this precipitates the crisis. And now you've got the crisis has the banks busted. They're negotiating with the Fed to lend them the billions they require to cover the margin calls they got. Volcker will not give them one penny unless I'm the guy to liquidate. Has to sign on that I liquidate the Hunts, me. Okay. And they changed the rules to sellers only. So the Hunts are called at that time, and they change, and that's when gold hits its high at 87.50 on the COMEX, and silver makes its high. But that's when the margin call goes out to the Hunts for a god awful amount of money. And they changed the rules to sellers only. Now, you can't do that. You cannot, in order to change a contract, both parties must agree.
Hey, Jim, it's important to mention that there was actually gold and actually silver that could be delivered back then. At this point,
yes, there was, but not to the degree. Not to the degree it was trading in the last few days. Okay.
Right.
The market went freaking wild. So yes, there was gold that could be delivered, and the COMEX themselves caused the rise when they started to believe their own rumors. So it came time. What did they do? They changed the rules. So we had two rule changes, very close to each other. One getting me out of trouble, and the next rule change takes the rest of the COMEX on the short side and out of trouble by issuing a rule to add to the contract, sellers may be the only ones to trade, meaning anything new at that time added to what was then caught had to be a seller, couldn't be a buyer.
Let's bring this down because that's when the rule changes took place and the game changed at that point. And Bill, what you're saying is we just had a rule change, so the game's changing.
Right. Exactly.
And why?
Well,
think
of
the why. Because it's standing there yelling at you.
Yeah. What?
This is a hunt thing all over again. This is the hunt replay, and you have identified Shanghai as the hunts. Now the name of the game here is, this is a possibility. Can they hypothecate forever? So please let me finish. When you trade a contract, let's say I'm a buyer and Bill is a seller. I make a bid, he hits my bid. I don't own any gold. He doesn't own any gold. We created a contract to buy and sell gold, but we didn't create gold. So inherently, every transaction at its inception on the COMEX has no gold behind it. Now, I think what you're watching on the increasing demand for overnight money is tied directly to the same scenario as the hunt situation, except now it's involving sovereigns, all right? Then it was the crazy hunts. They weren't crazy, smart as the dickens. But they were bulls in a china shop. And then it was on the level of individuals. But now it's on the level of sovereigns. Now, Shanghai will never break the playing board. No exchange will ever be blamed for breaking the whole playing board. And you don't want the playing board broken, if you can help it. But the rumor then must be spreading that those who appear through the Shanghai, the various international Asian brokerage houses, maybe the beard, whoever is running the China game, or China itself. The beard is he who disguises himself so that you don't know there's a real sovereign behind it. It may be that the event of the demand for overnight money is closely tied again to the same players. The question is what is the condition today of Mercado Metals with Scotiabank? Do they still own it? Have they sold it? Who owns it? Is it possible that there's going to be a revelation of a cover-up created by a change of rules like they always have done in history when there was nothing else to do? And you cannot change the rules. A contract cannot be abrogated unilaterally. It just can't be. Or nothing in this world we do. There's 7 conditions that make a contract not a contract. There's fraud and all kinds of other things.
Well, Jim,
but
Deutsche Bank
is
one of the
contract
big
is not that way. The COMEX, you see, what we don't want to admit is the COMEX contract is always naked. I'm trying to tell you, from the incidents made. So discovering there's a naked interest in the COMEX contract is discovering there used to be cocaine in Coca-Cola. It's a fact.
Right.
And the game can go on until a hunt comes along, all right? The game can go on until a reset comes along, but can't survive a reset. Now, China last week spoke about a cryptocurrency for the yuan. I have a suggestion that maybe we're right in the middle of the crisis now. And that, in fact, it's once again, as it is the basis of all fiat currency, gold. Okay? I mean, the fractional system couldn't exist without.
Well, Jim, that's pretty obvious because of what's going on in the repo market. That shows you we are
it's tied together.
Crisis.
Yeah.
And the thought
changing
process
rules,
is
smoking gun.
This is to help or whatever Deutsche Bank, and Deutsche Bank is one of the major shorts of gold.
And
I'm a rum dummy.
I'd always come back to what is Makata Metals doing now too, because they've been, it's for 300 years they've been ringing the market.
What I'm hearing is that you guys are saying that there is rehypothecation of vapor, of glitter, of pictures of gold. There's no gold, no nothing.
Rehypothecation to infinity. And the game is on now. There are two armies, except this time it's turned sovereign. One army is hypothecation to infinity to manipulate the gold for the entire history of man. The other army is Russia and China, who says bullshit. We're pulling the plug on the fiat monetary system because war today is not 2 million guys getting killed in trenches. So what you're watching, I think Bill has uncovered the real smoking gun. I think Bill is now Mr. Gold because nobody else has figured it out, yet he has. And he has by understanding...
Well, I got to give credit to Kevin. Kevin
did a beautiful job, but you put the numbers together.
And the reality, what this really looks like is HSBC is placing pledged contracts, pledged gold, and we don't even know if it's their gold. It could be...
No, and we don't even know they're doing it.
It's
in their name, but that doesn't mean that they're the ones doing it. Okay?
Well, the fact of the matter is pledged means leaned. It is already leaned. It's already pledged to somebody else. You can't... they're borrowing from another bank on the same asset, and that has been done multiple times.
But what they're
restructuring a contract they're restructuring a contract that already exists as contracted. You cannot do that. Again, the law, guys. If you could do that, there would be no commerce anywhere in the world because every contract you got out there, you could restructure however the hell you needed it by the party that got in trouble on it, which means the loser on the arrangement is out. And that can't work. It can only work if the contract is based on different legal things that have nothing to do with trading gold or ever do. I bought and sold a contract. You could not change my agreement. You cannot change the rules. That's what you're looking at. You're looking at unilateral abrogation of a contractual agreement which undoes the entire foundation of commerce in the world. You cannot do it. They got away with it with the Hunts. Why the Hunts didn't sue over that, I have no idea. And now that there is a problem, and here's your new rule change. Rules of trading don't mean a damn thing when you're trading a contract. Maybe from that moment forward, the contract can read that way, but all the old contracts read exactly what they say. And a contract for gold is a hard contract that you and I just created by, I'm the only one for sale, you buy one, bango, we did it. I don't have any gold. You have money, I got money. That's all we got. It's air.
Bill, go ahead and wrap this one up, and then we're going to move on.
What they've done is, in a nutshell, what they've done is they've created this new category of pledged gold, pledged contracts that can be used as margin for HSBC to sell even further, expand the open interest and sell more short contracts that are naked. Now, basically, it's because they're creating more margin. It's just making it more naked. You
can't do it.
You
cannot do that.
You
cannot
creating margin out of thin air.
Right.
And that's what has allowed nobody could figure out why the open interest
unilateral contract novation is illegal.
All right, I'm gonna wrap a bow on that one for now. Dave, speaking of smoke and mirrors, I was always taught to be very suspicious of long-time businesses that are suddenly for sale at very elevated prices. And that leads me to Saudi Aramco, which is soon to be an IPO, and it was rumored to come in at $2 trillion in value, Dave. I'm as skeptical as I can be on this one because I think the Saudis are trying to dump off their aging oil fields at elevated levels. Dave, have you been watching this at all? Have you any opinion on this IPO transaction? I got a feeling that the IPO is going to come in at half of what the Saudi princes think is a $2 trillion value. Have you been watching this at all, Dave?
I have, and I have one word for you: WeWorks.
Yeah.
WeWorks.
Yeah.
I brought this up 2 months ago when WeWorks was floating a valuation of $48 billion, and I'm sitting there saying, all right, I may be a knucklehead, but I'm not stupid. And I'm looking at their business model going, this is absolutely retarded. Well, present value on WeWorks is somewhere around $8 billion, and even that's a farce because the thing is broke. I believe Saudi Arabia is broke. I mean, for lack of a better word, they don't have functioning cash. That's where MBS has come up with this marvelous idea that he's going to IPO Saudi Aramco and refill his bank account. Well, first off, anybody who has seriously looked into Saudi Arabia's oil production, and this was years ago, they were continuing to pump more and more water into their wells to get less and less oil out. And around this time, all of a sudden, we came up with this giant idea that, we're going to IPO this. Well, first off, I've always felt that Wall Street is nothing but a scam. It only exists to bail out, as you said, entities that couldn't sell anywhere else. Well, we'll sell the junk on Wall Street. This is a perfect example of that taking place. And what you're seeing now is you're seeing maybe it's not worth $2 trillion. Well, how do we know it's worth anything? Because as we just finished talking about these gold contracts, we really don't know anything because the people who make the rules continuously lie. And as long as they're allowed to lie and there's no repercussions for it, or they can change the rules whenever they want and there's no repercussions for it, then the public runs around and absolutely knows nothing. There is no rule of law in any of our markets. Everything is rigged, and all you could try and do is figure out what the rig is. And in the Saudi Aramco case, I believe Saudi Arabia is out of cash. I mean, the whole country revolves around their oil production. We were led to believe 2 months ago, whenever it was, that they lost a massive amount of their production because it got hit with missiles. First they came from Yemen. Now if you read the articles, the New York Times had an article out, I believe it was yesterday, where they clearly stated, no, it was Iran. It was Iran who did it to them. The story changes whenever it fits what they need it to be. And I say they need it to be because this is a global cabal, all, for lack of a better word, stealing the public's money. And that's really what you're talking about when you talked about this gold thing a little earlier. We have no idea where the GLD gold is. And we've gone over this for years, Bill, that if you look at your GLD contract, it's not only is it not your gold, HSBC is not even responsible for it. It's with a sub-custodian who there is no accounting for any of this.
Right.
So the first thing you have to say to yourself is they're lying to you. They're cheating you. They change the rules whenever they want, and everything that we do, they make against the law. Everything that they do, they make legal. So, yes, I'm in full belief that the Saudi Aramco is WeWorks on steroids. It's a scam. And we're going to see how this all plays out as time goes on here because, again, the United States now is the largest producer of oil in the world. We've got it all figured out. Well, we have shale oil that, again, each of these wells is nowhere near as productive long-term as we were led to believe they were. These shale firms have drilled on borrowed money, and now they can't pay back the money at $57 a barrel in oil. So I think the Saudi Aramco thing is just another cash grab. They're going to try and blow this thing out, round up $1 trillion, maybe $2 trillion, $1.5 trillion. Where do these numbers even come from? I mean, $1 trillion?
They're cashing out.
They're cashing out. It's exactly what I see. That's my skepticism, Bill. You nailed it. They're cashing out.
Exactly. Or they're trying to. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
They want to wrap this pig up, put a bow on it, and sell it to the public. So, and again,
right.
whenever we see these things, you got to look at them and try and figure out how they're screwing you, because that is their ultimate goal.
All right, Jim. We in the introduction, I talked about the temporary overnight support of the repo markets has now become permanent because now we can see it on the balance sheet of the Fed. It's not temporary. It's not cash in flux. It's not a suspense account. And you predicted that that is exactly what they would do, Jim. And now this chart looks like a rhino horn, and the infusion of dollars is absolutely going logarithmic. You want to give us some more perspective on this, Jim?
I think what I've heard on today's conversation is the revelation of the absolute truth and simplicity of the situation at hand. One feeding the other, feeding the other. The overnight money contract, it requires repayment the next day. Think about that. Think about the fact you can't change a contract by changing some rule. That is called, you cannot novate, make non-functioning a contract without mutual agreement. Now there's a lot to that law, but in this instance that exists. Somewhere someone is in trouble for something. And when I was appointed by Volcker, because not because he liked the tip of my hat or had any use for me, but he did know I understood the mechanism extremely well. And at that time, the shorts of the almost same players had gotten them into terrible trouble. So the same players changed the rules. Smoking gun. The fact that a repo isn't being paid back, smoking gun. The fact that rules are being changed monetarily and in the metals market, smoking gun. The fact that Shanghai has become as popular as it is and is looking to become the major market for physical gold. When I tried to start one in Singapore, I found that out real fast, and I know when to walk and when to run. When to hold them and when to fold them. The present situation of the infinite QE now having taken another and different form, and an overnight loan becoming a perma loan as it enters itself into a balance sheet, which an overnight loan shouldn't, since it's an instant cancel, means it has all happened now. And at the heart of the whole matter is the speculation in general equities, and underlying the matter is the implication of QE to infinity and its implication to the fiat currency system. And the reset being considered and spoken about is both the way out and the cord that pulls the playing board out from under all of the speculators. The move to the yuan cryptocurrency is very, very serious. It confirms what we've been saying for years about how the reset would look. The overnight money means that somewhere something, and more than likely in the futures market, has gotten out of hand, and the big manipulators are wrong-sided. And here's your basic concept. A change of rules deals with a trading system, okay? A change of rules on overnight loans deals with the Federal Reserve's or central bank system, okay? But what everybody is missing is you can change everything but a contract. So you can change the rules of trading it, but you cannot change the words that are in the indenture of the contract. And nobody has figured out that if on contract law that suit was filed that suit would win. Now, I'm presently litigating in a contract matter, but mine is entirely different. But I'm telling you here, you have very simplistically, but absolutely correctly outlined the mechanism of the reset. And I'm telling you the first reset won't hold. So anybody who's bearish in gold is an idiot, I'm sorry. Anybody
let's talk about Yeah, Jim, let's talk about that just a second ago. And Bill, I originally had this question for you, but a couple of years ago, I remember this five-way conversation between Dave and Jim and Bill and Bix Weir and Cliff High. And Bix and Cliff didn't change my mind about Bitcoin. But I sent you a commercial, guys, that I saw this week about Bitcoin, and they're taking a different tack. They, I hope we can post this commercial on JS Mindset. But I don't want to give some jackass any more commercial play on JS Mindset, but the target of the commercial appeared to be that physical gold owners, and the nuance of the commercial was so very subtly compartmentalizing gold owners by humiliating them as psychologically imbalanced.
Right.
So now they're telling us we're crazy because we want real wealth. Any thoughts, Bill?
In your hand. Well, going back to that conversation, I pretty much stopped, all three of us pretty much stopped asking questions once, I think it was Cliff, said that Bitcoin would be the only way to transact business on the moon and on Mars. And from that point forward,
I shut down.
Yeah, what's the point of even having a discussion?
When they come at us and try to tell us we're deranged because we understand the truth, we already know the jig's up.
Well, they're telling
you can't change reality by changing the rules of a previously written agreement. The rules of a previously written agreement are set in a foundation of cement. The rules, however, have no foundation but sand and change from time to time. There's your smoking gun. And you guys have clearly outlined all of the mechanism. Now you have to find a revolver with a hammer coming forward.
Well, you can't change history by changing the rules. You can change the rules, but you can't change the fact that gold has been wealth for 5,000 years.
You can't change the contract that you and I just did yesterday by a change of trading rules today. And anybody who wakes up to that sees not only the fraud, but the illegality. I'm telling you, after this conversation today, I need a wife beater's Kelvar, stab-proof and bulletproof. In one sense, because of what we discussed today, with the bad guys coming at us, and in another sense, the fact that I'm standing on, I think, one of the biggest mines to be in the world, and the industry has figured it out, so everybody on God's earth is trying to steal it.
That makes you the craziest in the world, Jim, according to this Bitcoin ad.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, listen, I'm telling you the truth. You guys have outlined something that no one else. Kevin was good because he stimulated the conversation. But hear me. You guys outlined it, and the key to it is a change in rules does not abrogate the form of the agreement made yesterday. And the Hunts could have sued the COMEX successfully on that, but did not. Why? I don't know, but did not. And that rule is novation, which means canceling, of a previously agreed to arrangement is not unilaterally possible. And unilaterally, sellers only change the rule.
Well, Jim, in this instance, the change in the rule, all it does is allow more fraudulent contracts to be sold.
Yes.
Which
basically, and that's what they've done because they figured out they're up against sovereigns, okay? And they don't have the cash, so they got to figure some way of playing the paper game to continue to hold down the physical game. And if Singapore is to be the leading exchange in Asia on the Silk Road, Shanghai, then the way to make that happen is all that Shanghai needs to do is to call the cards, to call. In other words, we're playing poker. So they call, show your hand, show you the real gold. And it will set this whole thing off like you will not believe in favor of physical gold.
And Jim, that's what we've said all along, is that
you put it together.
Real gold will blow the game up.
And what they've done now is they found another smart, complicated, rule-ish type thing by creating the new category.
Yep.
So the new category is hypothecation to infinity. And that that sounds wonderful, except that's hypothecation of nothing.
It's a vapor. It's just vapor.
They set themselves up to go down.
Let me take another turn on this.
And I said exactly why. So now I'll probably have the gold guys trying to get through my Kelvar.
David, it seems to me that based on what I'm hearing, it seems to me that investors in the United States have been just totally exhausted with gold. I truly thought it would not happen, and yet week after week, the black hats are overwhelming the paper gold markets to the point of white-collar theft. And now they're even approaching us and telling us that we're crazy if we want to go to a sound money system. Now, the rest of the world is eagerly picking up what all of us as Americans are selling at fire sale prices. David, in your best, Dave, talk to us about this situation, what the ramifications of what this might mean to us as Americans.
Means our goose is cooked. In simple terms, our goose is cooked. They set us up. You got to admit, the people running the show are smarter than I am. They're smarter than any of us here in the sense that they have the rule book in front of them. They know what they're doing. So obviously they're misleading the American public for a reason here. Again, I referenced an article, where Putin came out yesterday or the day before, said the dollar's done. The dollar is it's done. He has the ability to kill the dollar as long as he works with China on this. And
U.S. dollar will collapse soon. That was his exact words.
Soon. That was his exact words. We know, and Jim brought this up a long time ago, that when the United States used SWIFT as a weapon, they pulled their gun out too soon and showed everybody their cards. And Jim said at the time, bad move. You can't show your cards and not expect everybody to spend the next several years trying to figure a way to work around what it is that you're going to do. And we've now seen the workarounds be put together, be it Europe figure out workarounds, Russia and China have figured out workarounds, Russia and India, Russia and Iran. The workarounds have been put in place. What their logic is for allowing the Americans to be blindsided by this, I believe, is to just keep them in power. Because as long as we don't uprise, as long as we shut up and go to work every day, they can continue doing exactly what they're doing, and we won't know till it's all over. And as Bill and I have said a million times, they're never going to tell you that they'll invent a reason for why this happened. It happened because we had everything under control right up until this moment. But then this happened out of the clear blue. And we see that all the time, every time something goes wrong. Who would have thought they were going to use airplanes against us as weapons? I mean, it's painful watching how the media leads the public around and how we believe it. Because let's get back to GLD in this, because this is part of it. When GLD came out, we at first were, oh God, this is finally going to blow the gold game up because it's just going to sap all the physical out of the market. Well, we have no idea, as I stated earlier, is there even any gold in GLD or was it all rehypothecated? Bill, can you answer that question?
Nobody can.
Is it there? All right. So then we have to assume that it's not there. Because if you can't prove it is there, then your natural inclination has to be, well, of course they're lying to us because that's what they do.
David, read the original prospectus and know that you're absolutely right.
Well, and again, I have read it, and we all have, and we all know that under the original prospectus, there is no safeguard.
They don't have to have real gold.
They don't have to have real gold.
So
exactly.
Simple as that.
So simple as that. Exactly. So the only thing in my mind that I can't figure out why, other than to keep themselves in power, you would, I don't want to say do this to the American people, but mislead them so bad. I mean, if you look at the chart of Russian gold reserves that went along with that little short story from yesterday, I mean, it's obviously Russia has dumped all its treasuries and taken the money and just plowed it into gold. And that's what we know they have. Do you think they have more than they've let on? I would say absolutely. And again, Billy, you've done the China story on how much you really think China's holding. All right, so let's just say you say it's 20 tons. How do you know it's not 40 tons or 100
40,000 tons? I mean, 20,000 tons is a given as far as I'm concerned. 30,000, highly likely. 40,000 tons, very possible. And Dave, the answer to the question about where is the American public going to be left? I mean, this country is going to be left with no manufacturing and no gold. That's where it's left. And that's a crushed society.
Well, and then we're back to what I've said all along. And again, this is no bearing on whether I like Donald Trump or I don't like Donald Trump. He has led more businesses through bankruptcy and through the wash and rinse cycle than probably any businessman that I could rattle off the top of my head. Wouldn't this be a perfect way to run America through the wash and rinse cycle, hand the baton to Russia and China, and all of a sudden we're playing second fiddle and everybody's going to say, who could have seen this coming?
Well, he would be most because he understands bankruptcy, most likely or say best candidate to run the country through bankruptcy. I would say for the people who, and I still lean toward, I don't think he's purposely running us into a ditch. The guy's had 3 years to try to clean up 50 years of complete and utter fraud. And it can't be done because you have moles everywhere. And actually, as long as we brought Trump into the equation, the impeachment that's going on right now, I think is so dangerous for the left, because at this point, I hope that Congress votes for impeachment, because Senate will then get to call any and all witnesses they want. And think about the witnesses that they'll be calling.
Obama
and the
tried
dirt
to
that'll be
call
coming up, and it'll go all the way to Obama.
Yeah.
Obama
Guys, I
want to call the Dems off. Hear me, Obama
I want to hold on to hold off on that political stuff. I want to focus on. Well, yeah, I'm going to save that for next week, though, because I've still got a couple things that I'm excited about that's in the mining industry. And, Jim, I got to get your perspective.
Best discussion ever that ever took place on the inner sanctum of the gold price.
All right, Jim, this is the last question, and y'all can jump into it. Kitco just announced a new mining page, and they now have an entire space dedicated to the up-to-the-minute news with exclusive industry interviews with all the relevant information of mining investors, rounded up in one spot, and I'm really excited about that. But, Jim, I believe that one of a lot of the challenges of bringing a non-Western mine online has to do with the reputation of mines in non-Western countries. What that really means is that it's pretty easy for financiers to walk away from tremendous opportunities simply because they just don't understand the culture or the real business climate in other continents. So, Jim, I know you're a miner. How and when will that reluctance to loan money for mining operations outside of the Western world really begin to change? When are they going to recognize the opportunities in Africa?
The money is there. money for Africa is there, and the major builders of mines, they build cities, okay? The Mars and Knudsen types of the world are also just entered into the lending business. Therefore, the answer is, if you got the real stuff, don't worry, you got the money. The real problem comes of people trying to steal the real stuff, if you can put it that way, and the eventual nationalization of all U.S. and Canadian mines. This discussion today is absolutely the total foundation. Anybody who go through this, I hope somebody recorded it, and slowly think of every thought put by every participant, will see the entire picture. I mean, this is fabulous. This is the best that has ever been done in the entire Gold Field. I congratulate Kevin. I congratulate my buddies, all of them with our different knowledges in different areas. Today made the gold case solid. Okay,
hey
the
guys,
money is there.
I just posted an article, and dig into your email, you'll find it. I posted an article titled "The 21st Century is the African Century."
Well, I personally give up. I give you the title I give you officially the title Mr. Gold. Okay. Simply put.
Speechless.
Okay,
I don't even know what to say.
And I give it to you. Wear it well.
Well, they said that the Garden of Eden was in Africa. I guess that's a nice place to sort of wrap this up and head that way, because, Bill, I happen to agree with you. I think that what is in Africa, not just in resources, but in population and resources of labor and in an egg format that's just ready to blossom. I think you might be onto something there, Bill and Jim.
Well, I didn't write the article.
Let me add that Trump may be president for longer than we believe if the Dems continue what they're doing. It was said here today. It was said by, I will do this in a further show, but it also was said by Obama this week. All right? Now, I think Magufuli of Tanzania may become the president of the entire country. And nothing will make me change my mind because he is what Trump is here. Then the resources of Africa go to the Silk Road, and what will make that happen is when the Chinese exchange pulls the plug, not themselves, but rather through 100 beards or more. That's all I got to say, man. You guys have laid it out, Mr. Gold. You did terrific. Kevin, thank you for pointing towards the smoking gun.
So does this mean I've got to call Bill Mr. Gold from now on?
You can't call me that because
sir
I'm
will
not
work.
that.
Sir, I'm not calling you sir.
Hey, listen, I'm just a mountain sitter. That's all. Just a poor little
Nah,
mountain sitter.
Jim, you're being too humble. But if you're handing that mantle over to
I am
to Bill, it's certainly well deserved.
Well, he does
well, since we're
nobody understands me. Everybody understands Bill.
I'm not sure I'm going to kiss the ring just yet, Jimmy. But
well, I wouldn't. You wouldn't
Well, you
kiss
could
that
bet
ring
it's a
ever,
gold
man.
ring.
Yeah, you could bet it's a gold ring.
You wouldn't have your eye on the guy wearing it.
Well, the guy that originally found the fly shit in the pepper was Jim Sinclair. Now, I will say that Bill has taken it to the next level, but you were the one that really sorted through it. All right, with that, Bill, have you got anything else you want to share today?
Just apologies for not getting this up yesterday, but we had a great loss, and
yeah, let's talk about that. I had a nephew that we sent home to God this week, and I got in the midst of family things, and the boys were generous enough to let me push off to tomorrow. But I sent my nephew home to God, and it was a tough 3 days. But guys, thanks for covering for me, and we got caught up today on Sunday, and I really appreciate the help. You understand family, and you were right there for me. Thank you.
Family first.
Yeah, and maybe today's discussion was a gift from your nephew.
You know, we got some more information there from Billy. How about you, Dave? Have you got anything else for us?
No, and again, let's just each week try and unravel this onion, because it is quite the wrap.
It's just fact. I had a lot of people that I know that listen to the show, and they say, you're going the conspiracy route. And I said, no, we're going the factual route. These are facts. This is what is taking place. So don't hang that conspiracy mantle just because we're bringing out things that you haven't thought about and you don't necessarily think about. So this isn't conspiracy. This is fact, and you guys have clearly pointed that out. So Jim and Bill and Dave.
Between theory and fact.
Exactly. You're entitled to your own opinions about theories. You're not entitled to your own opinions about facts, because facts are facts.
Exactly.
So. Well, guys, we'll talk to you next week. Thanks for pushing off for 24 hours for me. I send you my best, which means God's blessings for all the good health, prosperity, and I guess all the prosperity you can stand. You guys take care till next week, okay?
The best discussion in over 50 years of experience. Thank you, guys. It was terrific.
All right. Have a great weekend, guys.
We'll see you.